From Amerivet Securities, a service-disabled, veteran-owned broker-dealer in New York City, we bring you Compass Check, a podcast created by veterans for veterans. The military uses a compass to navigate air, land, and sea. Now, Compass Check is here to help you navigate your transition into the corporate workforce. Our goal is to reach military veterans and members of the veteran community, empower and connect them with a multitude of resources that will ultimately set them up for success after leaving the military. I'm your host, Army veteran James Fitzgerald. Let's get moving. The New York University Tandon Future Labs was founded in 2009 through a public-private academic partnership with New York City to increase the success of new ventures and to generate positive economic impact. The NYU Tandon Future Labs provides various incubator labs to entrepreneurs, including the Veteran Future Labs, which serves the veteran and military spouse community by fostering an environment that fills the gap between active duty military service and successful veteran business ownership. The Veterans Future Lab is an incubator based in Brooklyn, New York, and extends multiple programs to the military and veteran community to aid them in their pursuit of entrepreneurship. The Veteran Future Labs support and services include access to valuable resources, such as mentorship and networking communities, NYU facilities and office space, the Startup NYU program, and in-kind benefits such as pro bono legal services. Also in today's show, Backpacks for Life. Backpacks for Life is a 501c3 nonprofit that provides a unique and personalized support system for homeless veterans and their families. Since 2014, Backpacks for Life has been dedicated to serving homeless and at-risk veterans through a backpack distribution and mentorship program. The Backpacks for Life team works one-on-one with veterans to help them find the right supportive services for their situation. The process is aided by countless hours of personal interaction and the physical distribution of backpacks. My guest today is Alexa Modero, Director of New York University's Veterans Future Labs, and also the Executive Director and Co-founder of Backpacks for Life. Here's our conversation. Welcome aboard. It is great to have you with me today, Alexa. I'm excited to not only discuss some of the opportunities available to transitioning veterans out of the military service and into the corporate workforce that Veteran Future Labs has available, but I also want to hit on one of the other hats that you wear, which is being the founder and current director of Backpacks for Life. So I'm excited to have you here with me today. And we'll go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, James.
What I'd like to do is kick it over to you. You are the current director of New York City University's Veteran Future Labs. What I'd like for you to do is for you to peel back the layers of the history and the background for the purpose of Veteran Future Labs and help us understand what we have available to us.
Absolutely. So the Veterans Future Lab is actually part of NYU Tandon School of Engineering. So we're housed in the engineering school. We're based in downtown Brooklyn, which is awesome. And we're part of the Greater Future Lab. So it's a couple of different programs, and ours is specifically geared towards veterans, transitioning service members, and military spouses. So to kind of rewind a little bit, back in 2015, at the time, New York Assembly member Joe Lentil was really wondering why something did not exist for veterans to pursue entrepreneurship. So the Future Labs team came together and stood up what is now known as the Veterans Future Lab with their first program, Veteran Entrepreneurship Training, which we of course have to tie an acronym to since it's military related, and we call it VET. Yeah. So that's how it got started. And today we run a couple of different programs, all focused on entrepreneurship, whether you're just thinking of something and you're in idea phase, or if you're maybe a startup and you're looking to fundraise and grow your team.
When looking online at the programming that's available for veterans, there's really two different avenues I'd like for us to walk down. The first one is APEC or Apex. The other one is what you just mentioned, which is the veteran entrepreneurial training. Comes in two different parts, and I'd like for us to discuss them both today. I'd like for you to give us an idea about Apex and what that program entails and how it's able to impact the veteran community.
Yeah, so Apex is our incubator program. It is a no cost program. It runs for 9 months. And
Oh,
essentially, what it does is brings together about 10 to 12 veteran military spouse or transitioning service member led companies, primarily focused in tech enabled, right? So we're thinking about data tech companies, health tech companies, sustainability practices, and they come together and we're able to provide them with 9 months of free workspace in our downtown Brooklyn
wow.
offices, tons of credits like Startup New York, which is tax incentives for startups. We give them access to the New York University ecosystem as well as the New York
Oh,
City ecosystem. And that comes in the form of pro bono legal support, getting connected with subject matter experts, potential venture capitalists, angel investors. So, really connecting the dots and helping these companies that are in that early pre seed or seed stage of their journey as a startup.
it's an interesting program, in my opinion, because of the target. Military spouses aren't sought after in the same way as military veterans are when it comes to entrepreneurial trainings and opportunities. So I'm glad there is at least something available currently to have other institutions and organizations model other resources after. Shifting gears towards the veterans entrepreneurial training, two different parts. Um, Tell me the first part, like break that down for me.
Yeah, so I used to be the lead instructor for our vet course. And again, this is a
Oh,
no cost, yeah, no cost program. All our programs are free. So again, for veterans, transitioning service members, and spouses, they can take part if they maybe have an idea, but they're not sure where to run with it. I have a concept for a business. So they could partake in Vet One, which is our beginner course, and it teaches the very basic foundational principles of what it means to start a business, whether that's a for profit, a nonprofit, a brick and mortar, maybe it's a consulting service, you name it. So it's a 12-week long course and it happens each fall and each spring. And we offer that to, again, anyone who's looking to start a business, but they just don't have that network. Maybe they don't have the tools in their toolbox to really go from here's my idea and let's actually build it into something tangible. So it's a really, really great class. We bring in guest speakers all the time to lend their experience to our students so that they really understand what it means to be an entrepreneur. And then following that, our
yeah.
whole concept is go through Vet One. And then we'd love for people to partake in Vet 2, which is our more advanced course. Same structure as Vet 1, but we really deep dive into more advanced topics like go to market strategy,
Oh,
financial modeling, understanding
yeah.
what a balance sheet is. Finance is the biggest thing that I think for us, we find a lot of our entrepreneurs want to shy away from. But that's the most important piece, right? Because if you're not making the balance sheet work
Mm.
out, then you don't have a business. So it's really great. And at the end of each class, so for example, with Vet One, you come out of that class having practiced an elevator pitch and coming out with a 1 page executive summary. And then when you go into Vet Two, you leave with a full traditional business plan. So it really sets you up
Oh,
to go
that's
out
awesome.
and take your business off the ground.
I continuously hear all my leaders from my time in the Army screaming in my ear about how the good idea fairy is bad for business and slows things down. And we've always done things this way. You have flipped that around completely and given veterans the opportunity to take all those ideas, those innovations, those good practices, and put them to work in I love that they don't have to be restricted to a particular for-profit, nonprofit. It's up to them how they like to pursue developing and cultivating this idea, because that's what's absolutely necessary. And I think it's geared towards the military community. We're constantly given missions and just told to execute. Mission, enemy, time, troops, terrain was something that was always hammered into us. Those are the variables, but you're providing a lot of those variables, through pro bono legal services and all the additional practices that you're helping these veterans and other individuals come away with. So I want to continue keeping our eye on the different aspects of what you're doing at Veteran Future Lab. There's a summit that I had checked out back in 2021. It was the Veteran Future Lab summit. You brought quite a few individuals together, but I don't think I would do justice by it. So I'm going to pass it over to you to give me some insight into what the purpose of the summit was, and possibly what are you looking for in future summits?
Yeah, so the 2021 summit we held virtually, which, due to everything that's happened in the past couple of years, that was the best move. But the summit
Yeah.
is really just an all-day celebration and an opportunity to bring together that veteran and military spouse entrepreneur community. We host various workshops, panels, and it's really an opportunity to bring subject matter experts and thought leaders to the table to help our growing entrepreneurs understand things like, what does it mean to fundraise as a nonprofit? What are trends you should be looking at if you're going to build a tech-enabled company? So last year's event was virtual. We're really looking forward to the 2022 summit, which we'll be bringing back in person in New York City, which is super exciting.
Oh,
And it's going to be multiple different panels. So talking about things like veteran capital fundraising opportunities, fireside chats with lesson learns from people who have really gone through it, right? Been in the trenches. And I
yeah.
think the biggest thing above all else is just bringing together that community, because the biggest thing that folks lack when they go to pursue entrepreneurship is that network. And that's super important. So we want people to come in, make meaningful connections, and walk away having some leads for their own business.
That is one of the most intimidating parts about transitioning out of the military into anything, is that network, or the lack thereof of that professional network to give you the same support, guidance, information that we received each and every single day, regardless of the branch that you served in. So trying to replicate that as soon as possible is one of the missions of this podcast, is to increase the professional network of each and every single service member as they transition out, to know that you have veteran serving organizations, you have these great pillars inside of your community that are providing these services, that are providing these resources. Connect with them. So with that in mind, how can people get connected with Veteran Future Lab? Is there a specific eligibility? And I'm going to speak in a geographic sense, since I'm also in New York, but being mindful of our listening audience who may be geographically located all over the world. Who is an eligible candidate, and what kind of geographic restraints are placed on these eligibilities?
So one of the benefits of the pandemic was that we were able to open up our programming to offer it nationwide. So we've served
Boom.
folks in 18 states. So what used to
Awesome.
be an in-person program only in the New York City area, we now are attracting folks from California and Georgia and Texas, and it's really exciting because it again creates that larger network. So if people want to get involved in our programming, we always have applications open for each semester of VET. We again teach that every fall, spring, and summer. And then for Apex, we recruit every summer session. So we recruit in the summer and we kick off each cohort in the fall. So all the information about our programming is on our website, vfl.nyutandon.edu. NYC. So people can head over there, learn a little bit more about our programs, and also follow Veterans Future Lab on LinkedIn. We're always posting great opportunities for people who want to pursue entrepreneurship, and also more information about our programming as well.
Definitely check that out. Everyone that's able to hear my voice today, make sure that you advance on any opportunity to bring your idea into reality and make the world a better place. We're always about service in the military community. So, as a veteran, being able to put your idea to service for your community, I mean, you're right in line with every single bit of the values enforced inside of our military service. So, with that, a continued service that is currently transpiring right now is the other hat that you wear with Backpacks for Life. Uh, I I'm in awe, and I'm extremely inspired by not only the amount of work that you've done during the pandemic, but the amount of work that you continue to do as you widen your range of veterans that you're trying to reach, support, assist, and help. Tell me the story of Backpacks for Life.
Yeah, so I guess it's only fitting as the director of Veterans Future Lab that I'm also an entrepreneur myself, and most importantly, really exciting to be a social impact entrepreneur. So, Backpacks for Life is a New Jersey based nonprofit organization. And we started when my fiance Brett came home from a really challenging deployment in Afghanistan. And oddly enough, his transition back was, that much harder than the deployment. From my perspective as a spouse, it was really challenging to understand how to support him during a really tough time. And what we realized is there was so many more veterans that were also struggling with things just like reacclimation, understanding what their next step was in their career, struggling with maybe mental health concerns. So it was during one encounter where my fiance Brett saw a homeless veteran on the side of the road and gave him his backpack from deployment, and that sort of kickstarted this whole concept of
Mhm.
Backpacks for Life. And today we do so much more than just distribute backpacks, but that's the foundation of who we are. We use a backpack as a vehicle to reach homeless veterans and really just build camaraderie with them and say, here's a backpack and it's filled with toiletries and supplies and resources. And that's the biggest thing. It's how can we give you this to help you survive a little bit better, whether you're on the streets or in a shelter? And then what can we do to help you continue to make that ball roll and get a little bit better?
They're the basic necessities. These packs provide the base level care that each individual should have readily available. It's a shame that we have so many veterans that are disproportionately uh, at risk for losing their home or are currently on the street homeless. Even in shelter states like New York, there still is a component of the homeless population now that are veterans of all eras, including post 9/11, going all the way back to World War II or Vietnam. It's meaningful work. So I want to shine a little bit more of a spotlight on the veteran homelessness issue as a whole, because there's so many connecting factors to include mental health. Individuals that find themselves at risk for homelessness or currently are experiencing homelessness are at a higher percentage for dealing with mental health issues, uh, and also not being able to access the care necessary to deal with those mental health issues. So, if you'd like to expand on that, I'm going to pass it back to you to talk about mental health, but also any other connecting issues leading to veteran homelessness.
Yeah, so veteran homelessness is not a one size fits all equation, and it looks different in every veteran that we serve. And that's a point we really try to drive home because people often just think, oh, it's the man or woman on the side of the road, or it's the man or woman in the shelter. But oftentimes it's a man or woman who's couch surfing or living in their
Mm,
car and not necessarily wanting to come forward and say, hey, I need help. That's the hardest thing. People who serve in the military are very proud. It's a prideful thing. And then to be in a position where you're maybe at risk of losing your home or your job or your mental stability, it's not the thing you want to shout from the rooftops. So a couple years back, they do a study each year for any given night to figure out how many homeless veterans there are in the United States. Just back a couple years ago, the number was around 37,000, and they just released, the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans just released another report, and we're upwards of 40,000 veterans homeless on any given night. So it's a shame, and we wish we didn't have to do the work that we do, but people always say, well, how does this happen, right? How does a veteran become homeless? They're part of the military, they're hired by the government, they come back home. How does this happen? And again, every veteran's journey is very different. Every veteran's transition is super different. So depending on their support system when they come home, do they have a job lined up? And to that end, what career path? Is it going back to school? Is it finding a job in corporate America? Or is it pursuing entrepreneurship? Compounded with the reacclimation, right? You live a very different life when you're in the military and when you're on duty and you're on deployment.
Absolutely.
And then to come back home, it's plop, you're back in society and good luck. So, when you're struggling with things like potentially TBI and MST and PTSD, and then, maybe you are going to the VA or a local vet center, but you're being bombarded with resources. And there's over 43,000 veteran service organizations in this country, which is great, right? There's an
Wow. Yeah.
abundance of programs. The problem is knowing how to navigate those programs. And there's a lot of nuance to it because certain programs have certain eligibility requirements. So if you're maybe a Marine who's other than honorably discharged, you might not get the same care or be eligible for programming that an honorably discharged veteran would be. So it's understanding those nuances, and it's overwhelming to anyone, whether you're dealing with mental health concerns or not. So for us, it's really important at Backpacks for Life to provide coaching and mentorship where we give that personalized one-on-one support to guide a veteran through finding what resources for them. Maybe it's just financial aid. Maybe it's a recreational group like fly fishing clubs. Maybe it's just doing hands-on volunteer work, but maybe it's something more serious like getting therapy for drug and alcohol rehabilitation or finding housing. So it really varies. No veteran story is the same, but you just have to meet them where they're at. And I think that's the super important point to drive home.
The devil's in the details because when it comes to many of the resources available to support the homeless population, it typically boils down to a definition. What is homelessness defined as inside of your jurisdiction, your city, your state, so on and so forth? If you're not on the street homeless, some benefits, some services, some programs do not activate. Some have a length of time in which you have to be on the street homeless or in the shelter. So it's always something more complicated than we think. But when we dive into it, that's when you're just horrified at some of the bureaucracy, the labyrinth of just paperwork that people have to go through, verification, IDs that they may or may not have, as if their house burnt down, they may not have access to an original birth certificate, so on and so forth, documentation for low-income families. These are all factors that may seem small from the outside looking in, but are extremely major to someone that is examining each and every single cent and how it's being utilized. What I'd like to transition into in speaking about defining, you have a variety of different experiences under your belt already as an entrepreneur, as a military spouse, as someone that is a social impact leader, community leader. Everything you've been doing is excellent. I want to make sure people know how to get in contact with Backpacks for Life, whether it be them in New Jersey or anywhere else in the country. But also, how can they get involved? How can the community get a clear-cut definition from a subject matter expert, from a veteran servant organization, from a leader? Define to me how I, the average person on the street, can help out.
Yeah, so anyone can head over to our website. It's backpacksforlife.org, where you can learn more about our mission. You can sign up to volunteer with us. So that could be hands-on volunteering, helping us pack backpacks, or maybe being a coach to a veteran. Maybe you have a subject matter
Mm.
expertise in financial literacy and you want to help a veteran who's struggling with understanding how to manage their finances. So we have a ton of different opportunities. You can sign up for our newsletter there and you get notified of all different opportunities. And then on the flip side, for veterans, we're very much about serving the veteran and their support system. So we help veterans, their family members, whoever's there to be the champion for the veteran and helping them on their journey. We have distributed backpacks in 26 states. And while we're based in New Jersey, we do help veterans and we never say no.
Oh,
If it's a
nice.
veteran in Texas, we'll still talk to them and say, hey, let's try to find you the right program in your area. So while our expertise might be a little bit more New York metro area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, that's really our trifecta area, but we're always willing to help a veteran and even just have a conversation. That goes such a long way when you're someone who's maybe down on their luck. So we always try to help a veteran or spouse or whoever's that support system. We're always looking for people to volunteer with us too. So no shortage of opportunities to get involved, and can always check us out on social media. Brett and I like to go live and show people what we're doing and where we are, boots on the ground, working with veterans.
We're about to go live with our last segment, which is our double time. Um, with you being the entrepreneur that you are, and also the director of Veteran Future Lab, being witness to a lot of great businesses being cultivated and developed right under your wing. What I'd like to do this double time is going to be dedicated to 60 seconds or less pitch or description. I went through the veteran entrepreneurial training many moons ago, so I know that this was part of it. I had 60 seconds or less to describe my business. So this is the segment for you. I'm going to pitch a business to you that I've researched on your website. You're going to give me 60 seconds or less about that business, okay? Indigenous.
All right, so Indigenous is founded by Yusuf Henriquez. He's a former combat medic in the US Army, and he is passionate about finding a cure for his twin daughter's rare genetic
Mm,
eye disease. Formerly worked at the FDA and now runs Indigenous, where they're really working to set up labs to create less of a disparity for data sets in blood work and genetic testing for people who are of African descent. It's an incredible work. They're based down in Washington, D.C. They're a member of our program at the Veterans Future Lab, and we're
mm.
hopeful that they're going to be setting up some labs in New York very soon.
Boom. Stray light systems.
All right, so Straight Light Systems is founded by Sergio Rodriguera, another incredible Navy veteran based in DC, but they're doing incredible work in the data AI space. So their whole mission is to take the place of and help get work 10 times faster with automated software development. So whether you're a startup and you're looking for a software developer, or maybe you're a bank and you're really needing to automate your practices, they've built this AI that allows you to develop on the back end in super, super fast, like 10 times the speed. So, again, another amazing company that we're super excited to have in the program.
And a company that I also am a user of and absolutely love using them as a host for events when I need some delicious beverages to energize us through the day. Black Six Coffee.
One of my favorites, Black Six Coffee, is founded by U.S. Marine Corps veteran Joseph Zaletta. He's an
Mm.
incredible guy. He goes to remote areas across the country and does mission work. And what he does is brings back coffee beans, roasts them, and sells those to fuel his nonprofit mission work. Funny story, which I'll share, is that one of his very first mission trips, he brought one of our Backpacks for Life backpacks and hauled back pounds and pounds of coffee in it. It was incredible. And we just sent it with him to field test it. But he does incredible work. His coffee is incredible. So delicious. I'm a big fan. But it's all about giving back as well. So
Let's go get some coffee because I know I have to let you go. You have some other amazing work that you have to get back to. I appreciate you taking the time to join us for this leg of our journey, transitioning out of the military and into the corporate workforce. Thank you so much, and I will see you again.
Thanks so much, James. It was great to be here.
Thank you for listening to Compass Check with Amerivet Securities. I've been your host, James Fitzgerald. See you next time.